Today's guest conversation is with a former World Series champion and a right-handed pitcher who spent 14 seasons in the big leagues, Mr. Chad Durbin. Here's episode 53 of the Baseball Forward podcast. Chad Durbin, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, man, I'm glad we're on the podcast. Fired up. It should have been a couple weeks ago, but I kept dropping the ball with kids and schedules, so I'm glad to be on with you.
Man, no worries. I know how that goes, and it's chaos. I don't think you truly understand the world of chaos until you have kids. Am I correct?
Correct.
So curious, how many kiddos do you have?
I have three. I have a 17-year-old senior, and he's in his senior baseball season and headed to UL Lafayette, Raging Cajuns next year. And then I've got a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old who's about to turn 12. So boy, girl. The girl plays basketball and volleyball. The son plays soccer. I guess they both run cross country too. We did that in the fall just for funsies. And throw that in the schedule. I was like, sweet, we got to fall off. We're going to have some baseball, but it's not going to be total chaos. And then, the son, the older one, he does just play baseball now, but, active. I wish he played basketball and stuff like that. But it just, the nature of the beast, of baseball is that a lot of kids kind of get cornered into just going and do one.
They do. And boy, I don't like that because I know you and I growing up, you're a little bit older than I am, but we're same generation. It wasn't even a thought in our heads, was it? To just say, hey, we're just going to play baseball. I mean, growing up, what you played?
What would we have done? What would we have done with ourselves?
That
probably gotten in trouble. I was already working 3 jobs in high school because my mom was like, look, we can afford some stuff, but we can't afford all the things. So I need you to pay your insurance for your car. We will try to help out with gas or something, but you need to make your own money. So I was doing that plus basketball and baseball. And I don't, thinking about it, and I've said this to a lot of people, I don't know if I make it to where I made it if it's not for basketball and how hard it was. And it was good. The level of basketball in Baton Rouge or in Louisiana at the level we were, the size school, it was tough. You had to be tough mentally, you had to be tough physically, you had to be, you had to work hard, and all of those things were instilled in me. Where baseball, maybe I was just a little more naturally gifted. So I don't know if I would have got the same work ethic or had the same coaches in play. So just, it's a compilation of it for everybody. I mean, if you're just doing one sport, I guess you get different coaches because you're doing, nowadays it's instruction and, strength and conditioning, and, you got your summer coaches, your fall guy, you got your spring high school coaches. So I guess, in some way you'll get access to all those people. But I thought the difficulty, the failure that existed in basketball I was pretty good. I would have played college basketball, but I was not going to be, I'm 6'2". So, you can make a little bit of it, but man, it was so valuable when I hit like AA and everybody was as good or better than me, older than me, more skilled than me in some ways. It was like, I've failed before. I'm just going to continue to show up every day.
Wow.
And that attitude really paid off. I think, I reflect on it. I try to instill that in other people, but you can't simulate it. You got to go do it. You got to go get popped in the mouth by 6'5" guard that you had, hey, we're going to box someone. You got him today.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like you're not the main event, because I played basketball too, and I would agree. But baseball, I was more gifted, and I knew that was going to be my future. But I felt like when I was on the court, I always had to prove myself. You're always, you had to get credibility because you knew that it's almost like they look down on you, so you had to keep working.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question. So, in the moment, did you know that when you're out there and you're playing against these dudes, and you're not going to play, you don't think you're going to play in the NBA or anything like that, but are you aware of what it's doing for you in a positive way in the future, or were you just doing it because you were loving it?
I loved it. I think I started to realize it a couple of years in, or even the first instructional league. So you go to rookie ball after getting drafted out of high school. Instructionally, you get around a bunch of the college juniors and seniors. A lot of the prospects going to instructional league, and you get around them, and they're like, you play basketball? Oh yeah, I played basketball, baseball, obviously, and they're like, yeah, I played too. And I think back on it, they would reflect back on 3-4 years. What it meant to them to have played multiple sports. And I mean, I guess I realized it in dialogue. And I mean, I was the kid, I remember in Lansing, Michigan, in A-ball, I was 19 years old. remember asking my pitching coach and the other 4 starters, hey, is it okay if I just sit in on your pens? I don't want to say anything. I don't want to ask any questions. I just want to hear how you think. I want to hear what you're doing. So I became pretty inquisitive because those guys were kind of open to it and had some really good dudes. And they were like, yeah, man, this is why I do this. This is why I do that. And I would just continue to plow them with questions, probably annoyed the crap out of them. But I'm sure a couple of years later, they're like, that's Durbin on TV?
That makes
Well, okay,
sense.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I love hearing that. Talking with Chad Durbin, World Series champion Chad Durbin. That you can't ever take that away on the Baseball Forward podcast today. Chad, wow. World Series champion. Listen, hey, all the guys out there listening, me included. Man, I dreamed of being a big leaguer. I dreamed of being a Hall of Famer. I dreamed of winning a World Series title. You won a World Series, man. Like,
Crazy.
what do you ever? Because I see, and you guys, if you watch this on YouTube, you see the Durbin Phillies jersey in the background. But have you processed that? Because you'll never take away that tag from Chad Durbin, no matter what. Amazing, like 14 years in the big league. That's ridiculous. World Series champion. Is that kind of what you gravitate to and like in your identity in baseball? Hey, man, I'm a World Series champion.
I think when I'm in Philadelphia, absolutely, because it was enormously important to that fan base. The 93 team was really good. Crucky and Mitch Williams and all those guys, they didn't win. And the last one before that was way back in 80. So, I mean, we are the last one. It was like 80 and then 08. And this team right now is really good. But I'm not that guy here in Baton Rouge. I'm Coach Chad. I'm the guy that runs a pitching academy and has coached my son. And I give advice to whoever will listen. And a lot of times down here, with LSU being the main anchor of sports in the state, really. I mean, I love watching the Saints play and all that stuff, but LSU football draws more, and heck, a lot more guys end up going and being followed by the LSU fan base. So down here, I'm just like we laugh. Like Ben Sheets is from down here, but he lives up in Monroe. Myself, and I'll talk to Gil Mesh sometimes. Like guys that made it, Dave DeLucci, guys that didn't go to LSU, but we're just walking around town with World Series rings and all this stuff. But and I appreciate it about the guys that did say, hey, I'm going to go to LSU. I'm going to be one of the guys. They'll always have a job. They're celebrated, and it's really cool. But I'm not that guy down here. And I guess it's probably a blessing in disguise that you just don't stay in that spotlight nonstop. You have to re-identify yourself. And, I'll be honest, some guys look at me, and you get to be in your late 40s. And I know I looked at guys like they were a little full of crap. Even if they knew, because you're young and you're cocky and you're confident and you don't want to hear it. And so I've learned how, from a coaching standpoint, when to push, when to pull, when to pat a guy on the back and say, hey, you'll get them next time, because you know how hard they work. And other guys, hey, let's sit down. We need to talk about the realities of these situations. So you end up putting I was a big leaguer, or I was the World Series champ, or part of 2 World Series. Actually, part of 3, I was an extended alternate with Detroit in 06. Wow. But I was on that roster. I didn't see the field or even get invited to go, but I was on that roster. So I think back on who it reached. The only guys that really understand it are guys that did it.
That's right.
And like even not World Series champs, but obviously that moniker is really special. But even talking to like Eric O'Flaherty, the left-handed reliever that threw in the mid-90s and all that, he's got a son who's like 9 or 10. He's like, man, you're the only guy I can reach out to who's kind of throttling back on, youth baseball. I'm like, it's awesome. It can be a great thing, but do we really need to go play that much or travel that much? You don't. Like, and we have, so my kid's a senior, so the 25 class, our team was awful at 9 years old. Now, I say awful. Anybody listening knows what 9 AA baseball is. I think we went like 6-25.
Yep.
I mean, and some heartbreakers, all that, but the kids learned how to lose. I mean, hey, man, we taught them something. And the next year they were a 10 AA team that creeped into 10 AAA. And just skipping all of it, we ended up playing really good baseball. And there's going to be 6 guys that play college baseball off of that 9 AA team.
Wow.
And I just told people,
that's got to feel fantastic.
Matter. It matters, but it doesn't matter. Do they love the game? I ask them that some of the seniors, I'll ask my son and a couple other guys going to good schools, or any school, hey, come out and talk to the team. And I'll ask, first thing I say, hey, do you remember your record at 12? They're like, oh, absolutely not. So what do you remember? They're like, firing water balloons off the third floor of the hotel and getting in trouble. They're like, yeah, but that's what you're supposed to do. And that's why you fall in love with going to stay over a night in a hotel. And we didn't really do a ton of it early on because I'm like, hey, if they're good enough, they'll play a long time. And if they're not, at least we won't grind thousands of dollars out of you.
Good.
So we've done that. That's kind of the pace that I'm at.
I could probably talk because there's so many questions I would want to ask you just personally. Okay. It's because I've got an 11-year-old and a 10-year-old, and hearing that is music to my ears because to me, I'm like, man, we're playing, and I help coach, but I'm like, we're playing that many games. Why? And really pitching on Saturday and Sunday. Why?
So hard to manage.
Yeah. So I for the parents out there listening, as a dad, as a guy who did it, and a guy who coaches and understands, been around the game for so long, like, how can you put it into context when they say, if your son loves it, because you have a son who's going to UL Lafayette. That's a major baseball program, great school. So he's gonna do it. So you have some experience in that. For the parents out there, like, put it in context because I always hear guys saying, if they love it, when they love it, you'll know, and then kind of push them. When I say that, what does that mean to you, Chad?
Well, so I've been around a bunch of different types of kids too, and when they love it, and they love it at different success sometimes is why they love it, or the difficulty and the hard work is maybe why they enjoy the grind of it. There's different types of kids. There's some kids that are naturally gifted that don't like it at all.
Yep.
And some of that's their own pressure or the expectations that are built with rankings that are out there or whatever. So for mine, I remember at 12 years old, we left the neighborhood, driving him to school one morning, and he said, hey, can I talk to you about something? I'm like, well, yeah, obviously, yes, anytime. And he said, I think I need you to lay off. I'm like, I'm pretty hands off, and he's like, yeah, maybe you think you are, but every time a play happens, you give me the answer or what I should have done. If you give me 30 seconds, I'll figure it out on my own. But maybe I have a different coach next year and you could just be a dad. And I was like, holy crap.
Wow.
And that's coming from somebody who knows, and may forget more than most coaches will ever know.
That's a fact.
So for me, it was my own son. And so the next year I had a couple guys, former LSU players, ended up coaching the team, which was great. That was their first year coaching. And it was a group of 13-year-olds who was 12 playing 13, but he played it again. And he just thoroughly enjoyed just playing baseball. And for a while, I would try to bring something up, and it was kind of like he was a little disassociated. But what he loved was playing baseball. He was disassociated from me telling him what to do. Wow. He wanted to, I guess it's autonomy. They want their own ability to learn, and you're not teaching them to have an aptitude for it if you're just answering the questions for them on the test.
Wow.
So for me, I had to learn, and it was really, high amount. He's introverted, so he won't come out and just say whatever. He'll kind of hold it in. But for him to say that means he was at a tipping point.
Wow.
And now, as a 17-year-old senior, he's young. I almost look forward to him, and this is really kind of the pro in me talking. I look forward to him having a bad game.
Yeah.
Because he's going to walk in, he's going to sit down with his food and be like, all right, what did you see? But when I see mistakes happening and, bad pitch calling or him agreeing to a bad pitch call, I want to address it afterwards. And he's like, if you could just, let me be. Again, he goes back to the 12-year-old, or he'll walk in and say, all right, what do you got? I want to be better. What do I need to do? What sequence would have been better here? Did I read that bat wrong? We went back to we went off speed and the guy hit a double. Was it wrong? And so that means he loves it. He loves the opportunity to find out if he's capable of pitching at a high level. And for him, he gets it. The younger one, who's 13, he loves soccer. He likes throwing a baseball. He's going to throw the mess out of a baseball.
Yep.
And I appreciate that. But he's like, I don't want a PO dad. He's a left-handed swinging, right-hand thrower. He's going to be big and strong. But he's just, the kids he plays with are better than him right now.
Yeah.
And he's got severs or whatever in his heels. He runs like there's some shooting pain up his heel every time, and there is. And Cade had it. So I have to be patient with him. The pit bull in my family is my 11-year-old daughter. Like, she wakes up and she is like packed for the next 3 days and ready to go, and like plays volleyball. She's like, I want to play club volleyball. I said, you got to go talk to your mom and every day bring it up, because she's done this club or select baseball travel thing. And she's like, we don't need to do it. If you're good enough, you'll be good enough when puberty hits. And that's going back to the full conversation. Like, the armpit hair wins.
That's right.
And like I say, what wins at 12, 13, and 14 years old? The aggressor. Well, who's going to be the most aggressive? It's going to be the 5'7" kid, 13-year-old with a mustache. Like, he's gonna beat down your kid that's not going to get facial hair until he's 16. And so, going back to Eric O'Flaherty and why I guess I like talking to the guys that are talking to other big leaguers. We're all in the same situation. Our kids are fighting against ghosts that happen to be their dad standing 20 feet from them. But he said Brian McCann is like, we'll see you at the finish line.
I love that.
Finish line. You do whatever you need to do to win all these games and get all these rings and all these social media posts and all that stuff at 12 and 13. We'll see you at 16 and 17. Let's see who's who.
Chad Durbin, talking with Chad Durbin on the Baseball Forward podcast today. Chad, I think you need to come up with a podcast, or maybe like a book, and it's titled "The Armpit Hair Wins," because dude, it's so right. I mean, I remember it as being in middle school, growing up in Colorado, playing some teams from Pueblo, and these guys were grown men with tattoos, and I'm like, how am I supposed? We'll see. I was like, I don't have anything. Yeah. So I want you to expand on that, because there are going to be a lot of there will be people that listen that can't trust the process, right? Yes. And when you say the armpit hair wins,
early developers.
Yeah. And baseball, above all other sports, is a sport that is for late bloomers. So talk a little bit more into that for us.
So I've had guys on all ends of that spectrum. The tiny kid that you're thinking maybe another sport is what they get to like 14 or 15. You're like, oh, maybe it's not going to happen. Mom's 5'10", dad's 6'2". Yep. You're still 5'2", 80 pounds. I don't understand. Like, when is it going to happen? And then all of a sudden they take off, but they love the game, and the other kids are weeded out, and they develop, and all of a sudden they're 6 foot their senior year, and they're going to go play JUCO ball, and they developed all of the fundamentals necessary, like all of their footwork, getting rid of the ball quick in the middle infield, laying down bunts, like all that stuff. A college coach is going to be like, hey, you're going to play for me because you know how to do that. Whereas the kid that hit 3-hole, who was bigger earlier and, quit working as hard, or gave up on working because he didn't have to, because, success is really hard to compete with. Those guys, you have to circle back to them or remind them that, get around the right guys, even if they've got to drag you along, so that they can keep working. So the process in mine was, he's almost 6'1". He's 155, 160 pounds. Right-handed pitcher, very athletic, pretty elite mover, has some unique attributes on the metric side or whatever. But he had to learn how to throw strikes, because I played him up, kind of coming through. And then on the high school side, early developer, you got to be, if you're going to play with a good organization in high school, they're going to have, I guess our Knights Nation group has like the SEC level, Power 4 level team.
Sure.
That's the top team. Second team is going to have mid-major and some really good JUCO players that might be a year away from playing Power 4.
Sure.
And then the third team is going to be a mix of lower end D1, JUCO D3, D2, NAIA, and the fourth team's kind of a mix of the same. And my son started on the fourth team, then the third team, then the second team, then the top team. And he just earned it. And some of the reasoning was some of these other guys have better stuff. What he does really well for these coaches, and they're fighting for him, is pounds the zone.
Yes.
4 pitches for strikes, holds runners, doesn't get rattled, is okay with a couple barrels being hit off of him. And it's attractive. And it's going to be attractive at the next levels if he continues to be that guy. So he had to stick to the process. Early on, I was like, you're not going to punch a bunch of these guys out. We're playing 13 majors. You're 12. You're throwing 65, 66, which everybody has any idea. I didn't know what any of that meant. I had to experience it. I'm like,
I'm still going through it.
I was like, I actually have no idea how hard my kids throw. No idea. And then as it's going on, you start to realize it. And he's just learned how to pitch, to quadrants and fastball for strike. He knows the most. Hey, your spin rate's 3150. Oh, that's awesome. But was it a strike?
Yes.
And you've seen the little poster from one of the spring training mounds where it says nobody cares how hard you throw a ball for.
That's right.
He's never been a guy that he's so concerned with making them earn it. And I don't know if that's just innately who he is or anything that I've pounded on him. I remember Aaron Nola's high school coach, who actually works at Marucci now, and Marucci's in town here in Baton Rouge.
Yep.
He said, I used to try to get Aaron to throw the ball out of the zone. What's the worst attribute he has? Well, he throws too many strikes. Oh, that's bad. He goes, well, after a while, after some 0-2 hits, you just get worn out as a coach. And Aaron's like, nobody likes to hit 0-2. Nobody. That's so right. If I throw a strike 0-2, isn't that the worst batting average they're going to have? So I'm just going to play the numbers long term. And he still does it. He still gives up 0-2 hits. And you're like, what are you doing? And he's like, it's just who I am. Yeah. And so I think after all those conversations and sticking to the process is kind of the example here. If you'll just buy into how do I get a little bit better every day? We have this academy and people ask, like, what do I need to do? What works best for guys? I'm like, the guys that show up the most get the most out of, what we do. We have programming. It's not actually lessons based. It's very program based. It's very, we think about what I did as a pro, what other guys do in college. We try to, give them programming based on milestones. Hey, you're going to this in the fall, or you're trying to make your high school team in January down here. So we're really milestone based. And I tell people, if you'll just stick to this process, because most people are like, oh, you got to stick to the process, but what is your process? I didn't know what my process was.
No.
I lucked out and had the right people around. But you know what was one of the more impactful things for me in Lansing, Michigan, going back to 19 years old, in 1997, the Michigan State head coach was Nick Saban.
Oh my gosh!
So I would go to Bob Evans, eat breakfast in the morning, open the paper.
Oh yeah,
and there would be quotes from him talking about that. We're not going to be results based. Yep. We're going to be process driven. We're going to show up early, stay late. We're going to do the right things. We're going to accept failure as an opportunity. Like I remember reading all those. I'm like, this is exactly what I need to hear as a 19-year-old kid.
Wow.
And then as a, I guess a little bit later in my career, he comes down here to LSU. And I just continue to get this drum pounded in my head of all of he hasn't changed at all because it works, because he bought into his own process. Those great coaches, when you listen to them, they say it in different ways, but most of them are saying exactly the same thing is, understand who you are. Let's try to be the best version of ourselves, but try to figure out what your process is and drive that home. And if you pass through a threshold, we're absolutely okay with you redefining some things and then redefining your process. And that's sometimes what we have to do with guys.
Man, that is this is gold, because you did it, Chad, and you did it for so long. And so when I hear process, because for me, it's you can control the process, right? You can control what time you wake up. You can control the work you put in. You can control the things you think about. So when I say what you're in control of, a lot of you'll hear the trust the process. That's what it means to me, is take care of the things that I can control and be really good at controlling those things, even in life, just business and stuff. So tell me more about when I say controlling the controllables, what does that mean to you?
So I think I gained a lot of ground on guys through the strength conditioning process. Maybe it was basketball kind of echoing through my career, but I liked the conditioning. I liked showing up, to the gym. I liked the strength conditioning part. I don't think there were maybe just a handful of times where we had Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, with Wednesday being kind of a conditioning day. Saturday, if you feel like you need to do more speed, do it. Sunday off. That was my off season. And I don't think I missed a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Sometimes Saturday, I'd say, hey, I'm going out to an LSU game, whatever. But I didn't miss. Yep. And it was just, I stuck to it, and I just stacked days. And after a while, you just you almost become, it feels like you lose momentum, like a shipping container going at max speed. If it slows down, it takes a while to get it back up to speed. And I always thought about, let's just keep the momentum going. Even if I'm not going good or I'm going as great as I can, if I've got this process where I just show up, and the strength conditioning guy is a good buddy of mine now that was in town here. He actually lived next door to me for like 7 years and never mentioned that that's what he did for a living. We would talk Saints. We would talk, just our kids are similar ages. And finally he's like, hey, where do you lift? And I'm like, the gym. I go down to LSU when I can, or I go to the local Planet Fitness or whatever. He's like, I train pro athletes, college, high school, but pro athletes. I'm like, let's rock and roll.
Yes.
But he's like, it was me and actually Ryan Terrio and Mike Fontenot.
Look at
3 big leaguers, but we just didn't miss. It's like you show up and complain for 30 minutes, but you were there.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't even feel like being here today. Then he would say, but you're here. It's not like you're not going to work out. You showed up.
Yep.
And that's why I say just showing up is a big piece of just getting the work done.
I love that.
Just plopping a tee down for a hitter and just, hey, I'm going to hit a bucket. I'm going to take my first swing. And that's the day you maybe you break through some threshold where you've been like, man, I can't do this, or I can do this. And I feel like that's the thing. And always be open to learning. Okay. Even if you might disagree with, like, a lot of guys, because we're stubborn, we're athletes, immediately, as soon as someone isn't saying it the way you say it, or they're doing something different, you immediately jump to, oh, that's not going to work for me.
Wow.
Instead of just backing off and saying, because lifting, 96, lifting was kind of not what pitchers did.
Yeah, it was
I was a two-way guy. I was actually drafted. They wrote infield/pitcher on my, but as soon as I started throwing, it was what it was. And Skip Bertman had told me kind of, that's, you're wasting your time. I know you're arguing with me that you want to be a two-way guy, but you're wasting your time. You're going to be a big league pitcher. You're not going to be a big league hitter. And I'm like, that kind of stung to hear it, and I wanted to fight him on it. But the older I get, the more I realize, like, okay, doesn't mean I have to totally agree, but let's hear why.
Yeah.
Let's hear the why on a new, a Driveline. So when Hacking the Kinetic Chain came out and Driveline was getting big, I was right at the end of my career. You remember 2011, 12, 13 is kind of when that was taken off.
Sure.
Data was really starting to come into the game. And people asked me, are you going to do it? What do you think about it? I was like, man, people have thrown footballs, and we had weighted balls back in the day. I don't know. I mean, if it helps, it helps. And then you had like the Florida and Texas baseball ranches, and Brent Strom was my pitching coach in Kansas City for a little bit, and we stayed in touch. But he was always curious, and I'm going back to that. Like, be willing to hear somebody out. And I tried it. I mean, look, I bought the Driveline balls. We did the kinetic. I did the Hacking Kinetic Chain. I guess in 2015, 2016, I tried it out because I had guys asking me. I'm like, well, I'm still in good shape. My arm doesn't hurt. I'll try it out. And I had certain things I liked. I really liked the heavier ones because I could feel arm path. I felt like good things.
Interesting.
And so the lighter ones I didn't like. I was like,
man, why not?
Maybe because I already threw hard.
Okay.
Maybe there wasn't the feel of benefit that I was going to get, because I really like to feel. I like to 5 ounces felt like I could feel it still.
Okay.
4 ounces, I was like, I'm kind of losing touch with where the ball is. And then, 3 in there, there's benefit to guys that can't move fast. Yeah, I could see them needing that to get to 90.
Okay.
To 91. The guys that do throw fast, sometimes it's the arm path. They're late getting their arm up at foot strike. There's some little things that they need to tweak. Well, you can give some drills, to get the hand up on time, or let them see it in slow motion. And so you're able to work drill work in, and on the lower half, you're able to maybe grab med ball work and do. But all of it was foreign to me because we just threw. Hey, I'll long toss. I'll do pull downs. I'll throw some flat ground. Throw more, but not at high intensities. I felt like it just made my arm healthy for a long time. But I'm not. Go ahead.
No, and here's because I like, boy, you're in a unique position, like this generation going from we were bricks, we didn't know anything about strength and conditioning, all that, to now where it's just modern science, it's everything. So you threw gas, like. What did you do when you were growing up? I didn't do any of this, the med ball stuff or weighted ball stuff. What did you do to get the arm to be where your arm is at?
I mean, I threw a lot, but I didn't throw at max efforts all the time. I remember playing catch for long periods of time, or throwing, I guess my mom said at like 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, I did the Natural, the movie from back in the day. He used to put a little mark down on the barn and he threw the ball against it. We had a garage in the back yard, and in Illinois, as soon as the snow melted, I would throw a baseball against the strike zone that I put up there. And people, the guys I've talked to, that my friends and all that, my parents would they were like, my parents complained because it was like thud, and then like the ball would bounce back to me and thud. And my mom said you did it for hours on end, and you had a healthy arm. Like you didn't throw too much. I guess you threw just enough. And anytime skipping rocks or throwing a football when football season came up, I really do think, and maybe it's just because it was me, I think shooting a basketball is really healthy for your forearm.
Really?
It makes sense that it is.
Yep.
But I did it. So I played basketball. I was always conditioned well, and I threw a lot. Played shortstop and third base in high school to go along with, pitching. I switch hit, but they took left-handed away from me because back in the day, they're like, we just don't want them to get hit. And I think about some of the arm injuries. Guys take that left-handed swing,
sure,
and let go of the bat. Think about Ohtani. You think about Bryce Harper. You think about a lot of these guys. Maybe there's something to swinging a bat at max effort and decelling, and then also throwing and doing all that stuff. But I threw a lot. I long tossed.
Okay.
I really think when my velo took off, my junior and senior year of high school, I long tossed as often as possible. But it was never. I don't think I tried to throw balls as far as I could. I just tried to get comfortable, loose. What's that max? And it might be 360 feet. I would try to throw it from the line over the right field fence. We had a 375-foot fence. So from the foul line, maybe it was 350, 360. But that's kind of when it got there. It's like, okay, I want to throw about 10 to 15 there. And on the way back in, pull through some. Sure. But I threw a lot. I hate to say that because, I see guys now that throw a lot, but it's a lot of max limitation. They're trying to go spin the ball as hard as they can every pitch, or they're trying to get, their new PR.
Yeah.
And it's not even me having done this. My kid won't do it. Like went to a PBR event, and it was the big, futures games one up in Lake Point. And even the director's like, hey man, get on a couple here. And he's like, that's not what I do.
Yeah, for what?
He said because you got 300 coaches here. You got Tennessee and LSU and all these. He's like, well, it's never been what I do, so I'm not going to. And he said I got on a couple, but I didn't really like. But I'm trying to pitch. Man, I'm trying to elevate a heater.
That is wise. That is wise beyond his years. And you know what? That makes me internally, my heart is just like welling up because I'm like, no matter what you say, Chad, you tell me that when he was 12, 13, hey, Dad, back off a little bit. There's no question in my mind that your son is like that because of where his dad came from. And who better to know that from a guy that pitched in the big leagues for 14 years that that you got to be, what did he have to do to be successful? And it wasn't what's my PR? I can't. Chad Durbin, former 14-year major league veteran. Did you once think about what your PR was?
I had Dan Ugla tell me, because I was like, they asked me how hard I threw. And I was like, 91, 93. I'll touch 4 or 5, maybe 6, but I back up bases when it gets to that level. Every time I throw 95, it's really cool. I get to see it on my way back to the mound after I go back up third.
Why is that?
It just flattens out. I would throw the same pitch that I did at 91 to the same location, and for whatever reason, they saw it better. maybe my head came off a little bit, whatever it was. But everything flattened out, and I learned that doesn't work for me. Because Dan Ugly was like, no, you punched me out on like 97 and like 92 cutter. Like he brought it up on the computer, and like he's like, hey, look, guys, this I'm like, I don't remember that. He's like, you didn't know he said, you can go in and like see how hard you threw. And I'm like, I really just, it was Kenny Rogers and some other guys in Detroit, some older guys, Todd Jones. And I asked them, I'm like, Kenny, how hard did you throw back in the days? Upper 90s, I mean, mid 90s. But I said, well, you throw like 87, 89 now. He's like, I can control it. I know I'm going to throw it for a strike. I can get on one a little bit if I need to. And because Verlander threw 100 plus, every once in a while he'd be like, 4th pitch of this inning, I'm going to touch 95 and I'll go right back to 87. And he would do it. He'd be like, watch, look up there and pitch number. We'd look up and be 95 and then go right back to 87. But he told me, you started to make some money. He's like, you want to, invest money. Like, what's the thought there? And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I mean, do you put it all in or do you, he's like, you want to average it out, dollar cost averaging, whatever. He's like, a long-term investment means that you consistently invest. So hear me out on this. A long-term investment in throwing strikes. Strike one, and then winning the 1-1 count is going to happen, those are my metrics that I make sure my kid understands. Like, all of it's going to work out if you win those. Yes. If it doesn't and you're up in all those counts, maybe baseball ain't for you. But, so we're going to give ourselves the best chance. Do you want to face, I ask people, any kid, who's your favorite player? You get some Bryce Harpers and Mike Trouts. You get some, some of the younger guys, Acuna. It's like, which one do you want to face? Like, when I face Chipper Jones, I'm throwing him first pitch strike. He takes a lot of them, but I'm throwing him first pitch strike because if I'm up 0-1, he's a 277 hitter. If I'm down 1-0, he's a 355 hitter. Which Chipper Jones do I want to face?
That's right.
And that's kind of the way I imagine just a high school, mouth breather, it's completely different situation. The 3-hole for your, rival high school. If you get 0-1, maybe he's hitting 450, but now he's hitting like, 275.
That's right.
300. So you change who he is. He becomes less aggressive. He becomes, pitchable. Like you can play around a little bit once you get to 2 strikes. So I just investing in strikes and throwing the ball accurately. So the positive benefits, all the averages we talked about, but you throw less pitches.
Talking with Chad Durbin on the Baseball Forward podcast, man, I could listen to that because I know right now what's coming out of your mouth. I'm going to beg people to listen to it because this is what it is about. Like, it is gold, my friend. And I love talking and hearing about pitching. And I want to say this, the generation, the way we're going, the way Major League Baseball is trending, and for the kids out there that are aspiring to be the Chad Durbins of the world, there's a strike zone, there's a rectangle on the TV every single game, and those umpires, they're graded, and it has to be in that rectangle or it is not called a strike. So when I say that to you, Chad Durbin, it's got to be in that zone for it to be called a strike, because boy, you're talking now 17 inches, I don't know, however high it is. It's not a huge area. You got to be pretty good to get it in that area wherever you want to be, but it's got to be in that area to be a strike. And now that I'm confined to that area, that hitter, hey, talk me through, because I feel like your son knows that. And I feel like that's been relayed to him. So for the Baseball Forward audience, the importance of throwing strikes, but good strikes and the strike, like what comes to mind as I say all that stuff?
Well, I even when you were saying it, and actually on the screen right now, I'm in a box right above you, and it looks a lot like a strike zone if we were talking about it.
Yep.
I think about drawing X's across the zone in the zone, and if you throw enough pitches, you start kind of middle third, and then you expand to the outer thirds, and then if you do that well, you can move the ball off the edge. But if you're starting off the edge and having to move back, completely different world that you're living in. If we're talking about the top of the zone, I think the top is 42 inches on the TrackMan that they have at a lot of these stadiums. But the big leagues now is, I guess they address it with the size of each guy. Aaron Judge and Altuve have 2 different zones now.
Sure.
And so they put that up. But you've got to know, and there's all kinds of, I guess I'm really curious still, and I'll reach out and I'll talk to guys that bring up new data, and I have to think. So what I think about is validated sometimes in these conversations, but it's about being able to command, not control. Control is throwing strikes. Command what part of the zone that you're going to throw it to. And as you get older and you can start to read takes, not just swings, but you can read takes, they'll tell you where they're throwing it. Paul Bird, taught me, and he said he was taught by Maddux and Glavine and those guys while he was in Atlanta. But they'll tell you, and then all you have to do, I guess it sounds really simple, you got to execute, is throw the ball on the other side of the plate from where they're looking, or where they're telling you they're looking. Or if it's a swing and they're late and you throw them something softer and they barrel it in a gap, that's kind of on you for not understanding that you got them beat right now. And even if a guy can hit a heater most days, some days are just different for guys. And it's like reading pitch to pitch. And the only way to really read a guy, and Maddux used to do, he's like, I'm just going to get ahead. He would go glove side away, strike one, and try to read the entire situation. And he would, even peek at it. If the guy looked on deck, he'd even try to read that conversation. Pedro used to tell me in Philly, because he was older and he had to now pitch, Pedro had all kinds of things he was looking for, from the way that a guy warmed up on and where he swung the bat on deck, where he laid the bat over the plate when he was warming up. If they didn't, how they dug their back foot in. And I guess once you have enough reps and pitches in the big leagues, innings, you start to see that stuff. Because towards the end of my career, I would see a guy, Jeter or somebody, take a pitch, and you're like, God, all I have to do is locate this. And if I don't, they hit a single the other way, it's kind of on me. But you knew, like, hey, I've set them up, I've done well. And I guess with the zone that we were talking about, if I start in the middle and I start to, draw it to the top of the zone, or I try to go in so that I can go back, down here, that to me is how pitching really exists, is elevating on purpose, going, if they're a high ball hitter, that doesn't mean don't throw high pitches. It means throw them controlled at the top of the zone. Like maybe throw a ball in more, maybe throw a ball above that, change their eye level. There's so many ways. So even if you're making mistakes in the zone, hitters start to make mistakes because you are the aggressor. You are their entire dugout is saying, hey man, get ready. He's throwing strikes.
Yep.
And so you start to get, the second time through an order, you start to get, maybe some more soft contact, or guys kind of, swinging early and running away from, the zone because you're scared of contact. I think a lot of guys are scared of having balls get barreled.
Sure.
Especially at younger, 12, 13, they're swinging these drop 5 bats that are like trampolines.
Yeah.
And you give up a home run, and then inevitably you're going to walk the next 2 guys. That's what 12-year-olds do.
That's
but
right.
Guys that are going to probably pitch at the next level, and in high school, coaches are going to trust them, is there's a little bit of a, so what? He hit it. Let's see if the next guy does it. I think I gave up back-to-back home runs a couple times in the big leagues, but it was, my pitching coach was like, dude, you didn't walk a guy. I'm like, yeah, but I gave up 3 bombs. They're like, yeah, we'll get better at that, but you didn't shy away. Like, you leaned your chin in to take the next punch. I'm like, yeah, I guess maybe there's some value in that.
A lot of clearly there's a lot of value in that. Talking with Chad Durbin on the Baseball Forward podcast today. Chad, gosh, I wrote down the word because I want to know what your advice and your take on this word is, because inevitably it's a part of baseball, but in the bigger picture, it's a part of life, man. And I can tell you're pretty thoughtful, easy come, easy go. I don't think you take yourself too seriously. I think that's important, but I want your take on the word adversity and how important is it for a young baseball player to understand adversity, and then how do you overcome adversity? Go.
I mean, if you play at a high enough level and you play long enough, adversity is a constant. I mean, it is literally just as constant as any other thing that's going to happen in baseball. And I guess if you can smile in the face of it a little bit, knowing that you're going to get better because you're failing right now, and what a difficult thing to make a young mind attach itself to, is like, oh yeah, I sucked today, but so what? I'm going to get better because of it. I learned today. I mean, we've all heard that. We don't lose, we learn. Yeah, you still, it loses and it stings and it hurts, but how are you going to respond? Mm-hmm. It's not that you gave up a home run. It's not that you struck out looking with the bases loaded with the game on the line. You're going to fail. Adversity is kind of the results of the failure and how you handle and respond to the results. Because if we're results driven, baseball might not be the game for you.
Yes.
It's as hitters, you're going to fail a ton. And it's just the ability to wipe that slate clean, learn from it really quick. How quick can you learn? How quick can you discard? And then go back. I mean, I tell the little guys because they laugh. I'm like, look, we all lay turds. We go to the toilet. Do you leave it in there? Do you bring it with you? Do you walk around with it? No, you don't. You flush it. So if we can just learn like, hey man, I had a really bad day, but I'm still going to laugh at fart jokes and I'm still going to, be the little kid. Adults are built the same way. And so what we would tell the young guys coming in, once you're a veteran, and I remember Chad Kruger was a catcher and I was doing well. I mean, I started out my career in only had one outing, but I did well. And then when I came in spring training, I had a couple good ones. He said, you're not really a big leaguer till you fall off the horse and get back on and then fall off it again and get back on.
Wow.
And he said, eventually you're going to, do it enough times that that's what you do. And that's when you become a big leaguer, is that you no longer walk into the clubhouse looking like like somebody beat you the day before. You walk in like you did the day after you were really good. Can you be the same guy? And that's what we would tell the young guys. I mean, I'd make sure, and I was always the guy that, our clubhouse guys would be like, hey, go grab Durbin, ask him what you need to do, where you need to be, who you need to tip, how you need to walk, like all that stuff. And I would tell them, you're going to learn all that stuff pretty easy, but at some point you're going to give up, two of your buddies' runs because they're on second and third with one out, and then you're going to give up a couple runs and lose a game. And we need to learn how to handle that, because what the alphas in the room, and we're all alphas, what they're looking for is your chest is out walking back in, that your eye contact, we want you back out on the mound because we want to win at that level. And in order to win, we need guys that handle adversity extremely well, because it is a game built around it. And that's really what the Chase Utleys of the world and the Mike Sweeneys of the world, and Bryce Harper now, and they're looking to see, I'll use the Phillies as an example. Alec Boehm is the third baseman. He's handled adversity decent, but he's also handled it poorly at times. And I know those veterans are going to cover him on the front side, but on the back side, come here, young man, you're not handling adversity well. And we have 162 games to play. And so on a youth level, it's really about, telling them, hey, you get 15 minutes after a game to be mad at the world. That's just enough time to either get in the car and go grab food and meet people, or grab some ice cream, go back to the house, or stand in the concession line and wait for, a snowball or an icy. And for me, that's really, that's really what it's all about. And I think I'm looking at the podcast. Where is it? There it is. My screen just blacked out on me. I had to try to get back to eye contact.
No worries.
But that 15 minutes, my kid actually attaches it to. He's like, I don't want to talk right now. The game just ended. Can we talk later? Absolutely. But he verbalizes a little bit. My 13-year-old is kind of just turned 13, and he kind of says it the same way.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to go home and play FIFA. That's how I'm going to decompress, so to speak.
Yep.
So adversity is inevitable. And so if you don't know how to handle adversity, then you're just not going to know how to play the game. And the truth is, we're dads. We're guys are husbands, dads, sons. Adversity's coming at you in real life too.
That's right.
If baseball or sports are the vehicle and then you lose a job and you're like, oh crap, now what am I going to do next? Because I got to go provide for my family. Or somebody gets sick and you've got to handle adversity. What did we talk about? Showing up. You can be upset. We're not telling you don't be upset, but let's handle upset. Why are we upset? Can we control the results? What's the process? Can we work back to the process? Do I have a routine to get into? And as a father, I mean, I'm sending a kid off to college. You think like, did I get him ready? Is he going to be ready to make a couple C's his freshman year?
Yeah, he is.
And I think he is. And is he going to be ready for the possibility of having a crappy fall and getting cut? Yeah, he is. So we provide him with all these, I call it tools. We want you to have a couple more tools in the bag. Jamie Moyer used to have like a list written down in a notebook. And he would kind of go, okay, I'm missing arm side. Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this?
Jeez.
And he would tell us the same thing. We'd come off the field, and Rich Doobie was our pitching coach, but he'd be like, hey, get extension or whatever. And Jamie Moore is like, hey, when you're lifting your leg, I can see the front cleat. I can see it coming up. So you're obviously rocking maybe back out, but he's seeing that. And I'm like, okay, maybe I am doing that, or maybe I'm too far forward. And so having tools in your bag, every time you experience adversity, maybe you solve a problem a different way. Write it down.
Wow.
Have it in your bag. because if you recognize this over the next couple of years, sometimes it takes weeks for a 12-year-old to make adjustments.
Yeah.
And then for a 14 or 15-year-old, maybe it takes a couple outings.
Sure.
I'm talking about pitching specifically, but hitting too. And then as they get to 17, 18, 19, 20, if they're good enough, it's maybe inning to inning. And, and then they get into maybe if they're playing pro ball, they're an elite level college guy. It's really about pitch to pitch. And maybe they don't know how, but they're trying to make the adjustment pitch to pitch.
Yep.
And as a pro, as a veteran, it is, what did I feel there? Why did it miss arm side? I wanted it to have more sink than run. A cutter, I wanted to have some depth versus flat. What did I do? That result of the ball means something was happening. And so having tools in your bag. I know we're running towards the back end. One of the things I tell kids, and this is really important for your kids, your son's ages, and also for high school kids, college and pro also. But play catch and pay attention to the spin of the ball. Okay, the ball's spinning coming towards you, but it's spinning a certain way. And if your catch partner is getting around the baseball and you see that it's got cut spin on it, tell him.
Yes.
If he's getting around the ball or the curve ball it's popping up out of his hand, tell him. And I feel like at the younger ages, it's really are you playing catch with two seamers? Let's play catch with four seamers.
Yes,
it's travel truer through the air.
Yep.
And we'll be able to see as the other catch partner what's going on. And, I feel like that doesn't happen enough. We need metrics to fix something. It's like, no, I saw the same thing in catch play.
Yep.
And we can really fix it. And we could do another podcast altogether on the high school, college, and pro, pitch arsenals and pitch metrics and, all that stuff. But I know,
I would be an idiot to not ask you back on another episode and maybe another episode, because I know everybody's going to want to listen to this. They're going to see your name and they're going to, when they listen to what you're talking about, man, it's simple stuff that you can apply to your game now. And you can start to get better right now. You can start, you just have to listen. I want to know, talking with Chad Durbin on the Baseball Forward podcast, a few more minutes here, Chad. Baseball Forward, our mission with Coach Schwanke and Coach Gary Ward, our mission is to elevate the next generation of ball players and coaches. There's a lot of negativity out there that I personally, I can't stand the stuff, negativity, people putting each other down. I do this right, you do this wrong, blah, 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 blah. So Baseball Forward is elevating the next generation of ball players and coaches. So Chad Durbin, as a former big leaguer for so many years and just wealth of knowledge in your brain, simple advice for the young players coming up in the game of baseball, what would that be?
Find something you love about the game. A player, college, big leagues, high school, older kid, and emulate them, meaning try to move like them, try to play the game like them. And I remember, I'll use this real quick. At 13 years old, I remember Kate hit a home run and bat flipped because the other coach was, talking trash to the kids. And I was so upset. And he's like, Dad, you tell me to pick a player. I picked Fernando Tatis Jr. And he pimps every home run. Am I not supposed to do that? Who did you play like? I was like, Ryan Sandberg. He did none of that. He was like, that was your generation. And so I think for the kids, if it's fun to do that stuff, if it's fun to go find the sliding mitt, if it's fun to have the drip or whatever they call it, be into it. I wanted to wear a Rawlings base glove because Brian Sandberg wore a Rawlings. So find your passion for it. Find what you're good at and chase what you're good at inside of the game. And if you're bad at things, work on them to lift them up. But don't forget that, everybody's given different gifts. And if we judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, we'll never know what it's good at, swimming.
Right.
So I try to find that with kids. I try to breed that into them. There's enough failure, enough expectations. And if you just enjoy, I guess, the granular level of how the baseball feels in your hand, putting a bat grip on a bat, walking into the park and the smell of the grass or the turf, I guess nowadays, but like just enjoying being part of a team and laughing at, 13-year-olds are a mess, man. Get ready for that. But enjoy it. And I feel like a lot of times the expectations that Paul's going to be there and mom wants me to get 2 hits and my girlfriend's showing up and coach, needs me to be a good leadoff hitter. I think there's, the world's going to expect things out of you. So there's some parts of that, but I really feel like in finding what you enjoy about the game, my 13-year-old, I enjoy playing catch before the games. I just really enjoy playing catch before the game. I'm like, really? That's your favorite thing? He's like, yeah, that's my favorite thing. I'm like, good Lord, you could do that till you're 80. It's like golf, So I really feel like that is, and some kids love hitting. They will hit off a tee. I have a kid 2 doors down that's going to Bellhaven in Mississippi. He was with our little team that's now actually they have a high school district championship game today, and it's my son on the mound, and he'll be the leadoff hitter.
Let's go!
It's so awesome. But if you check my phone, and this kid is built different. You check my phone. Hey, Coach Chad, can you open the third garage so I can hit? He goes, gets a bucket, and he goes to our cage on the other side, and he'll tee work it for an hour. And I'm talking, I probably have 400 messages just like that.
Wow.
And so I think about that. He enjoyed just setting up a tee and putting a ball in there and trying to hit it to the back of the cage over and over again. That's what he enjoyed.
What was your thing growing up? What did you enjoy?
I enjoyed ripping through a baseball. I enjoyed base running is probably, I thought about it right away, and I didn't get to do it as a big leaguer a couple times. Yeah, I hit 318 in AAA and got to go first to third a couple times, steal a bag or 2. But I enjoyed base running. I enjoyed embarrassing outfielders and catchers that lobbed the ball back to the pitcher. I would take the extra base. I really enjoyed that, and I thought it was a reflection of my baseball IQ and toughness and hustle.
Sure.
But I really enjoyed running the bases, so I teach that almost more than I teach the pitching to the younger guys.
Okay.
I'm like, hey, secondary, let's make sure we're taking a better angle into third. If we're not stealing third, we need to have a couple steps back so I can have a better angle to get to home plate.
Okay.
And you get kids that are like, wait, what? Well, you pitched. I'm like, I also played.
Yep.
And so I enjoyed that. What I really miss about I don't miss trying to get Albert Pujols out or Manny Ramirez. That was fun.
Yep.
But what I really miss is kind of the day-to-day kind of what my 13-year-old said. I miss playing catch with Brad Lidge or Justin Verlander or Craig Kimbrell or Jonathan Papelbon. I miss just the grabbing a baseball and smelling it and rubbing it up and playing catch and the sound of a ballpark. I miss that stuff. So I guess I really enjoyed that stuff if I miss it.
Man, Chad, I gotta ask this before we wrap it up. What was your when Chad Durbin's running out on the field? What music is being played?
So I listen to it all. I'm talking from symphony music to hardcore rap to heavy metal, hair band.
Hardcore rap.
It did everything back in the day. And now,
yes.
So I listen to the same thing with my kids. But I get when I was in the early 2000s, I came out to Cult of Personality. I came out to some. So you needed a good guitar riff. Because you're only going to be out there for 15, 20 seconds. People hear the music as a starter. As a reliever, I didn't hear the music. I don't know what it was. But so, I listen to everything. I guess if I had to really sit down right now and I'm going to play something for an hour, I guess it would range from, Dave Matthews Band to George Strait to, Snoop. It really is. I guess
that's all my stuff, man. Absolutely.
I like Latin music. When I was in the clubhouse, like some of the guys are like, "Oh, what are they playing?" I'm like, "It's actually really good if you just sit and listen to it."
It's upbeat. It makes you
so
move,
positive.
Man.
So anytime
did you learn some Spanish?
Enough that I could understand them, but I couldn't I could put together broken sentences, and they knew not to talk. They didn't say anything around me because I'd be like, "Hey, I know what you're saying." And they're like, "What? Okay, Durbin, you're out." We'll wait till you leave the room. But I really think about so when my son and I go down, the 17-year-old now, we go down to Jupiter or Fort Myers. He would make us. He's like, okay, we listen to reggaeton while we're driving around. We're gonna put on. Yeah, he's like, it's the culture. Let's do this.
And it's part. Hey, listen, for everybody, listen. It's part of baseball too. Get used to it because it's part of the baseball culture. The clubhouse, going in and hearing those guys talk that you don't know what the heck they're saying, but they're smiling and they're having a good time. Let's enjoy it, man. I love hearing that. And Chad Durbin, man, seriously, thank you so much for taking your time. I'm glad we were able to connect because I hope that we can have additional conversations.
Yeah, I'm in.
As a baseball guy, I want to pick your brain, and I know how valuable that this information is going to be to the kids, to the families, to the people out there that really love the game and they want to be better at the game.
Yeah.
That we accomplished that with this conversation today. So, Chad, say a few words, and then we'll end this episode of the podcast.
No, I appreciate everything. Love to do another one. Anything from pitching specifics to just general, or even recruiting in the world that's coming at a lot of the high school parents that are you think until you go live it. And I've lived it, and the rules are changing, and it is what it is. But I just I really think we can add value. You're doing a great job. Your podcasts are great. So people listening are going to learn every time and learn in different ways. So happy to help in any way I can.
Chad Durbin, episode 53 of the Baseball Forward podcast. We'll see you later, Chad.
Thanks, sir.